We often say that a win is a win. This week, all we can say that is a loss is a loss. As much as we would have liked to have had the 6th seed, at least the Packers are in the playoffs. We'll recap that brutal loss to the Chicago Bears, share some feedback from all of you, and look ahead to Wild Card Weekend against the Eagles. All this and more coming up next on your Packers Fan Podcast.
And I'm Wayne Henderson, and I can't find the right words to explain how much I'm absolutely sick of seeing yellow penalty flags during Packers games. Oh, and I'm not really thrilled with the overall officiating either.
I'm Scott Clark. You might know me from the Gaming Outsider podcast. While I don't think they had a unclean game in terms of that, I'm not going to agree with Wayne there. I can definitely find the right word to say, and that word is disgusted. It's absolutely disgraceful that the Packers handed the Bears a win for the first time in years and their first win at all in several weeks. This does not look like the same team that it did over the past few weeks. Are we ready for the playoffs? Only time will tell. It's episode 316 of your Packers Fan Podcast, and this time around we will recap the Bears-Packers game as well as some listener feedback.
And then we're going to preview next Sunday's wild card playoff game against the Eagles in Philadelphia, which is an improvement over the field in Brazil, to be sure. And Scott, he's going to be bringing his keys to a Packers victory this go-round.
All right. I can't talk about a victory this week, but we can talk about our leaders in the Packers game. Would you believe that Jordan Love was not the leader taking snaps? It was Malik Willis this week. He was 10 for 13 for 136 yards with a passer rating of 109.8. On the rushing side, Emmanuel Wilson took the top spot, 14 carries, 73 yards, and a touchdown. Receiving, Malik Heath had 3 catches for 53 yards. And on defense, once again, Edgerrin Cooper, 7 tackles, 4 of them all on his own, 1 tackle for a loss, and 1 quarterback hit. So I think they were listening a little bit. We did use Josh Jacobs, but not nearly as much as we kind of expected them to.
Right.
Did spread it out a little bit and give some rest. I just wish they would have rested him a little bit sooner, but we'll get to that here in the lowlights coming up. But we got some highlights to talk about as well. Let's talk first about the opening offensive drive. Packers won the toss, elected to receive. There was a holding call before we could even snap the ball.
Unbelievable.
Not much happened in this drive, and the Packers were forced to punt. The snap was high, and Whelan had to pick it up off the ground. Thankfully, he got the punt off and put it around the 30 for the Bears. This was the time I realized how tall Whelan is. They say he's like 6'5". Have you ever seen a punter 6'5" before?
Not often.
That's kind of crazy.
Hey, let's file that one under disaster averted.
Yes, very much so.
On our opening defensive drive, a sack by Rashawn Gary on the very first play, 68th against the Bears on this particular season. I'm thinking just 9 more to go. We'll get Caleb Williams that record. It was not meant to be. But Kent tackled for a loss on the very next play. And then the next play after that was a short game, but not enough to keep them from going 3 and out for the Bears. And they punted it to us. We returned it to the 40-yard line. So not too bad yet.
Mm-hmm. It was a rough start to the game after that point, but Josh Jacobs thankfully was able to breathe some life back into the Packers after a rough first quarter. With 11 minutes left in the game, the Packers had to rely on the running game since Jordan Love had to have his hand looked at, and after further review, it looks like it was his elbow that was an issue. I heard the announcers describing it as like a stinger, almost like a funny, hit your funny bone kind of deal. They saw him like kind of gripping the air with his hands over and over again. Anyway, as for that series, Willis did complete a solid pass to Tucker Kraft as he took over for Jordan Love. But Jacobs was the one who wound up in the end zone to close the gap. Bears were still ahead at this point, but it was only by 4 points, 14-10 at that go.
And one of the more exciting moments of the game, Xavier McKinney saved our bacon with an interception in the third. Chicago was driving. They even converted on a 4th down play, but the very next pass was intercepted. This was McKinney's first since that famous 7-game pick streak to start off the season, but it was very opportune and it was beautiful.
I was feeling pretty good at this point, too. Even though we were still down, I was like, all right, we're back in this. Packers finally showed some life with about 5 minutes left in the game. This is how long it took for us to have some more highlights in this game.
That's usually not when you start to find life in the game.
Yeah, right. The drive was kept alive by an amazing catch by Heath, and then Wilson runs around the right side for a 21-yard score. The 2-point conversion was a failure, and it looks like Willis might have hurt his hand on the play before that, which caused him to throw this pass into the turf, which was very disappointing. So, again, both of our quarterbacks are injuring their passing arms. I was getting extremely nervous, very nervous. Bears were still leading 21-19 at this point. That would have tied the game and made me feel a lot better.
Indeed. There was a fumble recovery near the end that gave us one final chance. And what's funny is the announcer literally just got done saying, Bears fans are wondering how they're going to mess it up. And mere seconds later, the Bears fumbled. The Green Bay Packers recovered, took over on the right side of midfield, sets up 4th down to take the lead. Brandon McManus nails a 55-yarder. I was very nervous, even though he's been like on fire all season. 55 yards in that weather. But he made it, and the Packers were leading 22-21, and I'm getting excited.
Yeah, he's only missed one the entire season.
I love it.
From what they said.
Yeah.
Really, really digging to see that. And again, I was feeling pretty comfortable at this point, but unfortunately, that's where the good news ends. We're going to head over to the lowlights of the game. How in the world did the Green Bay Packers allow a 94-yard punt return? It appeared that the entire team thought the returner on the right had the ball. He did this little fake out thing where he acted like he caught it, and the entire special teams went that way. But because the ball was actually kicked to the left, and they scored. Chicago led 7-0 on a 94-yard punt return. Oh, that was awful. Just awful.
This could potentially be the worst play of the entire Packers season. It was unreal. I couldn't believe, that they fell for the shenanigans, but then nobody could catch him. Now, there was a part of the success attributed to the Bears because the refs did not call a holding penalty against a particular Bears player on the return, which could have called it all back, but woulda, coulda, shoulda. Oh.
I didn't see it. I don't remember seeing that.
I saw it. I rewound it. I saw it again, and it didn't make me feel any better, though. But
it just looked like the entire team was running in slow motion going after this guy. Like, can you guys kick it into gear? I was just blown away by how like everyone was just lackadaisical on that return. Like, get him! What are you doing?
Solid question, Scott. Very frustrating indeed. Jaden Reed, he fumbles on the opening play after the Chicago punt, and it was just punched out of his hands perfectly. It was recovered by Jonathan Owens, former Packer, now on the Bears. The Chicago Bears get to start on the Packers' 21-yard line, which of course means a few plays later, the Bears are leading by 2 scores. That's when it was 14-3. And I was like, he couldn't have really protected that ball, but couldn't it have bounced our way instead of into Jonathan Owens' hands?
I would have liked it, but unfortunately. And then maybe the worst news outside of just an overall loss was Christian Watson's injury. It was weird. It was not even an impact injury. He wasn't hit. He just kind of came down funny on whatever. Fell to the ground during a route, clutching his knee, and he was eventually carted to the locker room, and his season is done. And I'm not going to lie. I'll be surprised if he takes the field again. He's Mr. Glass at this point.
It's very sad indeed for Christian and everything that he's gone through to get over not having the hamstring injuries anymore, then to have the knee last week, and then I guess this was a different leg this week. Just frustrating as heck. I don't even know why he was out there. He should not have been playing. We keep bringing players back too soon, in my humble opinion.
Not just your opinion, mine too.
Oh, okay, not just mine. Okay, fair enough. Willis, he's tackled for a sack in the third, and this came right after we turned the ball over with the McKinney pick. Willis just did not see the defender coming. He was hammered, and the ball was on the ground for a little while, and it was, again, in slow motion. Bears got it. Oh.
Yeah, and one of the biggest issues of this game was tackling. I haven't seen tackling this bad all season.
Really?
There was about 10 minutes left of the game. Williams threw a screen to DJ Moore, who ran it 32 yards for a score. It felt like the Packers defense had just given up at this point. Chicago went for 2. Fortunately, they failed to convert, but wait, there was a holding penalty on Green Bay. So Chicago opted to kick it this time and succeeded. So Bears were leading 21-13. I was confused by why they were going for 2 anyway. That just seemed like a really dumb decision to me. But they wound up getting the extra point anyway, so worked in their favor.
And then I thought we had the game, but the streak is officially over. But then again, the streak against the Bears starts anew next autumn. Green Bay had the lead thanks to that McManus 55-yarder. All the defense had to do was to keep the Bears out of field goal range for 40 seconds. They even had a penalty that pushed the Bears back 10 yards. Didn't stop Chicago from pushing, spiking the ball, setting up a 51-yard field goal to win the game. Or as they say, the Bears had more points than us when time ran out. It was 24-22. This should not have happened. It was embarrassing. Bears fans are all excited like they just won the Super Bowl, but their season's done and we're going to the playoffs, as is everybody in the NFC North except for Chicago. So enjoy the win. We're coming back for you next season.
I agree. But if the tables were turned, we'd be just as excited to put that nail in the coffin for the Bears if the roles were reversed. So
I don't know.
I don't fault them for it, but the trash talking is getting old.
Yeah, when your team has 5 wins, there's so much trash talking.
Yeah.
But anyways, you alluded to a few things in your recap areas, which brought up a weekly poll question. We do it every week right after the game. We post it in the Facebook group at PackersCommunity.com as well as on X at Packers Fan Pod. And this week, I had Sir Scott come up with a question. So take it away, Scott.
All right, this week I said, what needs to be adjusted the most before our wild card game in Philadelphia? Wayne, well, my initial selections were, first off, tackling, secondly, play calling, and thirdly, getting penalties under control. We did have a write-in vote from Stephen Nuss, who said having the team prepared to play a full game. And I got to say, that's what I'm going with. It feels like the last couple weeks, the Packers have been playing one quarter of solid football. They need to play all 4 quarters if they are going to have a chance in the playoffs. You can't rest on your laurels and come out of halftime and be coming from behind. You got to be doing fundamental football, 110% for all 4 quarters. So, yeah, good call there, Steven. What about you, Wayne?
That would be nice indeed. I'm going to go with one of your original 3 options, getting the penalties under control. We were doing so much better all season long. This game was not one of the highlights as far as yellow flags, the ones that were thrown because we did do something and the ones that were thrown for when we didn't really do anything. But I'm tired of it. We got to get it under control. There's only 5 days left from the time of this recording, Scott.
Mm-hmm. So what were the results?
The results, after you combine Facebook and Twitter, nobody in either X, Twitter, or whatever you want to call it, or Facebook said tackling. 37% went with the play calling needs to be improved the most. 25% voted for getting the penalties under control. But the winner with the write-in vote, which is only in the Facebook group, but it was so overwhelmingly voted for. But in the end, 38% when you average it out, having the team prepared to play a full game. So Stephen Nuss, excellent option to add to the choices.
We had some comments in the poll as well. First, over on the Facebook group, Jared McChinney-Kerr said, picking having to play a full game, but play calling is 100% part of it. Matt LaFleur needs to be better here. I agree, but I also feel like a lot of people are calling for his head already. Listen.
That's crazy.
He's made the playoffs how many times since he started? Come on. He's not perfect, but let's get him off the chopping block for a minute, guys. Zach also commented and said, this is a coaching issue today. Not kicking field goal early in the half, not trying for points at the end of the first half with timeouts, and only sending 3 to attack Caleb on their last play before the kick. Fails all around. Yes, I agree.
Indeed. And there you have it. There's a lot of other great conversations happening in the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook group. Remember to join it at PackersCommunity.com. Be part of all the conversations, but especially the fun that we're going to have on Sunday, our live game chat section during the Packers-Eagles wild card playoff game. We'll see you there.
Moving on, Packers fans, let your voice be heard and be part of the show. If you'd like, record your 2 to 3 minute feedback on your phone or computer, and then email the recording to feedback at Packers Fan Podcast or by calling the PFP voicemail at +1 920 3-Pack-GO. Be sure to call and share your thoughts on the Eagles game right after it ends. Deadline for your calls will be Monday at 6 p.m. Central. What is our first voicemail, Wayne?
Well, we got another special call from Colorado.
Hello there. It is I, Janet in Colorado, calling for Sirs Wayne and Scott, hoping it's not too late past the deadline. If it is too late, however, I do understand. What I don't understand is how Packers, and so many questions left unanswered as they lost to the Bears last night. Sir Pack Sparrow said it best: it is important for a team to march forth into the playoffs with the momentum behind them, with the wind at their sails, and our Packers are just buttering in the harbor with a broken engine. Don't ask why a ship has both an engine and sails. Either way, many questions need to be answered, and they need to be answered on very short notice. Matt LaFleur, why has your play calling gotten so bad? Why are you calling jet sweeps to Jaden Reed on 4th and short? Why is Christian Watson's knee so fragile? And why must certain injuries, albeit minor, happen to our starting quarterback and backup? And Mr. Hafley, Mr. Jeff Hafley, are you okay? Did Joe Barry kidnap you, and now he's wearing your face and calling plays? Because it would make the most sense. Because why, for the love of God, are you having the secondary line up 20 yards past the field goal line when all they need is a field goal? Anyways, these are some of the questions I have. It was not the ending you want. However, let's keep in mind, while the Packers lost to the Bears, and the Bears won their Super Bowl, the Packers are going off to Philadelphia to compete for the real Super Bowl, and to bring home the Lombardi Trophy back to its rightful place. And while, admittedly, it might be a stretch for them to do it this season, let us not forget, the playoffs are like a reset. Anything could happen, and while on paper the Packers are the least favored to take it all the way, maybe, just maybe, there's enough magic left in that glorious slice of cheese to bring the Lombardi back home where she belongs. Until next time, Wayne and Scott, I will say goodbye.
Oh boy, love it.
Thank you so much, Jared. That is hilarious. His voice, when he does that, reminds me of those old like serial episodes on the radio. You remember those? Like next time on that's what it reminds me of. Very good. Yeah, I have questions about the coaching as well. There were so many calls that were like, what are we doing? Like we're doing things that the Bears have been doing at the end of games. Like it's just things are reversed. It's like bizarro world. It's just very frustrating. He also brought up the playoffs, being reset. I love the line about maybe there's some magic left in that slice of cheese. That's really great.
It's beautiful. And how and why is Joe Barry wearing Jeff Hafley's face? So many visuals in there, Jared. Thank you so much. And he did add a PS when he sent in the recording. Only thing that I want to add to my recording is that I truly believe that the Packers have what it takes to hang with anyone in the playoffs, including a team as scary looking as the Eagles. My only worry is that they're making just enough mistakes that I don't know if they can get past that last little hump when it comes time to play near perfect football against a team like the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm feeling what you're laying down there, man. I'm with you.
Oh boy, so good, so good. Let's see who else might have sent in an audio recording to feedback@PackersFanPodcast.com.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Go, 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 Pack, go. Wow. There just isn't a whole lot of positives that came out of this game. We had 11 straight wins versus the Bears. Eventually it had to happen, and at least it happened in this game when it really, honestly, didn't mean a single thing. with Washington Commanders winning their game, it didn't matter if we won or lost. But the fact that we lost Christian Watson with an ACL injury, Jordan Love, as of today, it sounds like he still has some numbness in his arm. That's not good. But, that's just the game of football. On a positive note, Josh Jacobs became, he had his 8th straight game with a rushing touchdown. And that broke the Golden Boy Paul Hornung's record back from 1967 when he had 7 straight games with a rushing touchdown. So that was awesome. And we're still averaging 30 points per game. That's a good positive. McManus hit all of his field goals, up to a 57-yard field goal in, Green Bay, which, that's saying a lot. I could say a lot of the negative things, but I want to focus on those positives that I already pointed out. I don't want to talk about the negative things because, right now, this is just like the beginning of the season. Everybody is 0-0. It doesn't matter your record. It doesn't matter what's happened in the, it would have been great to have some momentum going into the postseason with at least one win, but this is a game of chess, not checkers. Coaches don't want to show their hands too soon, and the fact that we already knew that we were going into the playoffs 3 weeks ago, that speaks volumes. There may have been a reason why Jeff Hafley called a prevent defense on the last play of the game, or the second to the last play of the game before the Chicago Bears kicked their field goal. Maybe they just didn't want to, show their hand. Like I said, this is a game of chess, not checkers. And if you show too much too soon, then other teams in the league that are in the playoffs, they're gonna cue in on those shortcomings. I'm sorry, my voice is a little bit compromised. I'm trying to get over a little bit of a sickness, a cold, whatever it is. But all I know is next Sunday at 4:30, I am going to be in front of the TV watching the Green Bay Packers take on the Philadelphia Eagles and cheering us on to a divisional round championship. And go, 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 Pack, go!
Go Pack, go indeed. Dan Dyler, a.k.a. Pack Sparrow, thank you so much for sending it in. Please get well soon. And excellent points. Yeah, the Cowboys didn't beat the Commanders, so we would have been the 7th seed, even if we had beaten the Bears. So there's that. And Josh Jacobs, rushing touchdowns in 8 straight games, a new Packers record. What do you say about that, Scott?
That's huge. I didn't even know that was a thing. So, and he could extend it, this coming weekend. So looking forward to seeing if that happens. So I love the sentiment too. Everybody's 0-0 going in the playoffs. Records don't matter at this point.
That's true. But Scott, we have to start our first 3 games on the road.
I know.
But I'm not sure, but potentially the NFC has the home field in the Super Bowl. So we'll see.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's going to gets the home field in,
Name
not
only.
in Lambeau.
I know.
Yeah.
And Dan bringing up maybe we are playing chess and not checkers. Maybe there's a reason Hafley called a prevent defense near the end of the game.
It was not a good one. I can't think of a good reason for that, but it's just very, very frustrating. I appreciate Dan trying to be positive, and I could hear it in his voice that he was struggling to do so. I think we all are. We wanted the win. Like he said, it didn't really matter since Washington did come back and win, but it still would have been a good boost of confidence. I don't know if it would have been a boost of confidence, because if we'd squeaked by the Bears last week, it would have been like, oh, we barely did it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Maybe this is the kick in the pants that they need to be like, look, you got to get your stuff together for this last game. So.
Yeah, that's kind of what Jordan Love was saying in one of the post-game pressers, that trust me, the outcome of this game is motivation enough.
Absolutely. Let's go on to emails. We got one from James in Montana. He says, "Go Pack Go." Well, that sucked. That's it. That's the email. Just kidding, though the thought did cross my mind. Losing to a division rival is always frustrating, but going 1-5 in the division is just embarrassing. The injuries have me worried. Love will probably be fine, fingers crossed. Watson is probably done for the remainder of the season. I'm sure some will say they rushed him back, but it wasn't the same knee that had the bruise. Plus, it was a non-contact injury. It's probably just really unlucky. You hate to see it. I read that during pregame conversations, Larry McCarron made it sound like the Packers were having a hard time getting hyped up for this game during practice this week, which obviously translated onto the field today. The Bears were coming in with a vengeance. We showed up like it was a preseason game. Hope they shake this crap off and go into the playoffs with a chip on their shoulder. The defense played well for the most part, created a few turnovers, got some stops, but the offense struggled to stay on the field, giving the D barely any break. We have got to have better ball security. The clock management at the end of the game was pretty bad. Could have easily ran more time off the clock, but the game was all for naught since Washington won anyways. On to Philly, and remember, we're nobody's underdog. It's playoff time. The revenge tour has begun. Let's freaking go, Pack, go. James from Montana. Thank you, James. Love to hear it.
So many great points in there, and I appreciate the reminder that we are nobody's underdog. We are the 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers, and we are heading to Philly to face the Eagles in the wild card round of the playoffs Sunday, January 12th at 3:30 p.m. Central Time on Fox here in the States. The Packers do lead the series 28-19, and that does go back to October 29th, 1933, when the Packers won 35-9. And although this wild card game has the Eagles as the number 2 seed and we're the number 7 seed, Philadelphia are definitely beatable. And Scott will tell you why in just a bit. Week 1 when we played the Eagles, before Jordan Love's injury, we almost beat the Eagles. The final score came out to be 34-29 down in Brazil. And if we do beat the Eagles, we would then move on to get our rematch against the Lions in Detroit. And obviously the Packers aren't going to be looking past the Eagles, but as a viewer at home, I sure can, so I will. They always say that it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a single season. So let's win in Philly, then head back up to Ford Field and steal one from the Lions. And
absolutely. And also thank you to the Eagles for providing us Reggie White. That was awesome.
That's always something to be thankful for. Sunday's weather in Philly is forecast to be partly cloudy, and it's actually going to be a balmy 35 degrees Fahrenheit at kickoff, which is around 1.6 degrees Celsius. But compared to last week at Lambeau, it's nowhere near as cold.
Yeah, how many times did they show the shots of the players standing in front of the heaters on the sidelines?
100.
Yeah, it was a lot. They definitely talked about that. All right, well, it is time for keys to a Packers victory over the Eagles. I've got 3 of them prepped and ready to go. Strategy number 1, contain Barkley. Saquon Barkley is a beast. He finished the season with 2,005 rushing yards, which is only about 100 yards shy of Eric Dickerson's single-season record. It should go without saying that the Packers will need to plug those holes in the offensive line to keep him from padding those numbers. We can't have a repeat of the tackling issues we had against the Bears. The Bears! So if they're going to have a chance against Philly, it's going to have to come on the ground on the defensive side especially. Strategy number 2, avoid one-on-one matchups in the secondary as much as possible. Xavier McKinney is going to have his work cut out for him this week on the passing front. His job is going to be vital, as he's going to have to ensure that the receivers have as few opportunities to go one-on-one against cornerbacks, especially with the absence of Jair Alexander. He's going to have to be at 110%. As much as they're going to have to focus on stopping Barkley, the defense also has to keep an eye on those wide receiver matchups. Strategy number 3, don't be bullied, guys. The Eagles have clearly been favored in this game. They're stronger than they've been in a long time, and they're primed to walk all over the Packers, who are going into the wild card round in worse shape than they were last year. But here's the thing, that's not necessarily true. And here's why. Last year, they had to win the last game of the season to move on, and ended the season on a record not as good as this season's. The key here is going to be a psychological one. The Packers are going to have to fight like crazy and go into this one with their heads held high, shaking off the last 2 weeks and focus on being the team that they were 5 weeks before that. If they can get out of their own heads and focus on the positive, there's no way they don't stand a chance. No one is expecting it, but they should be expecting it. Go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go indeed, Scott Clark. I am amped up. I'm actually more excited for this game than I was because I'm ever hopeful. The green and gold rose-colored glasses are right here. Those are excellent keys to victory. And I don't know if the Eagles are just kind of like trying to pull our leg, but they're trying to make it sound like Jalen Hurts may not be back. The backup quarterback might still be banged up, and they're all going to be there and play just fine. So we got to be ready.
We'll see how it goes. Moving on to our 2024 season wager of fun with some updates. Not a lot to update this week because everybody picked the Packers to defeat the Bears, and that didn't happen. The final score was 24-22 in favor of Chicago. I predicted 24-13. Wayne predicted 28-14. Obviously, both of us were wrong. None of the listeners got it right, so the standings are still the same. Wayne has 5 wins. I have 4 wins. Brett Connor in the UK has 5 wins. Technically, somebody could catch him.
Yes, they could.
They could. Dan Dyler and Garrett Stritzel each have 2 wins. David Newman, Jay Walters, David Hawkins, and Megan each have 1 win. I don't think they can do it. Can they? 1, 2,
I think
3,
they could
4.
if you factor in the Super
Go to the Super Bowl.
They could tie Brett Connor, but if they miss out this week, they could be eliminated from Packers Fan Podcast Wager Fun listener section contention.
And we still never came up with what our wager is going to be, so we got to figure that out before.
I'm so bad. I'm sorry.
It's all right. We still got to play a Madden matchup, too. We got to make that happen. I'm waiting for you to get that set up with your son, because that's going to be fun.
That's true. Over the holidays, I did do a little bit of practice with some of the grandkids. They wanted to show me, but they're not teachers.
Yeah, I hear you.
They both gave up after just a few minutes, saying, "How do you not know what do these buttons do?"
Welcome to being a kid, man.
Let's just say I had a first, I got the kick return, got the ball to the 30-yard line on the first play. I think something was wrong with the controller. That's what I'm going to blame. But I ran 30 yards the wrong way for safety.
So in Madden football, you blame the controllers being broken, and in real football, you blame the refs.
We'll see. Maybe I'm just stonewalling you, and you better be ready when we finally do this. Sorry, everybody, for us being late on this.
All right, moving on. Here are our predictions for the Packers at the Eagles. I got to gain a point on you, man. And I'm going to do it in a way you don't like to hear, but I'm going to predict. I'm predicting Philadelphia winning, man. I'm sorry. These last 2 weeks, we're going up against the Eagles, which are much, much stronger than the Bears. It's just, I think it's going to be an uphill battle unless they're just like laying down on that game, which I don't think they were. I think it was just a bad game, and I think that stop looking at me like that. Stop looking at me like that. I'm going to say Philadelphia 28, Green Bay 17.
Fine.
What say you?
Fine. Packers are going to win this game, Scott. 24-21, and maybe even with a field goal in overtime.
All right. I hope you're right, man. I hope you're
so
right,
too.
But I want the Packers to win, but if they don't, I'll tie it up with you. Because what do we do? Have we ever had a tie?
No, I usually I just run away with it.
Oh, I see what you're doing there. The listeners, we've only got 2 wins so far. Garrett Stritzel says Green Bay 21, Philadelphia 17. And Jay Walters says Green Bay 28, Philadelphia 24. I think everybody's picking the Packers because they don't want to suffer the wrath of Wayne Henderson.
I don't think that's it. I think we're all very motivated and positive about it. And I believe that some of the other folks like Dan Dyler needs to get well, Brett Connor, they're probably all looking to see how the week plays out. Because as long as you get in your guess, before the kickoff in the Facebook group thread, it's good. So we'll see. So we'll see.
All right. I want to tell you guys one more time about my other podcast, The Gaming Outsider. We normally have a new episode out every Thursday, and this week we are finally back. I'm actually recording it right after we're done here. It is my favorite episode of the year, where we determine collectively what the overall Gaming Outsider Game of the Year is. We have my special guest by the name of Grant Henry. He's a musician, does all the music in our podcast. He was our special guest at our live concert. Can't wait. Please check it out. It's going to be a long show, but it's going to be a lot of fun. You can hear that show the same places you listen to this one. And you can find our website at thegamingoutsider.com.
I wasn't sure if I heard correctly. Did you say thegamingoutsider.com?
Yes, thegamingoutsider.com.
As 2025 and the playoff season gets underway, we are so appreciative of your continued Patreon support of the old PFP. Jay Walters, Go Pack Go, and thank you for your Bart Star patronage. Greatly appreciated. And Mr. Dan Dyler, a.k.a. Pack Sparrow, thanks, Go Pack Go, and ARG to you for supporting us at the Jordan Love level.
Go Pack Go, and thank yous to our Brett Favre level patrons, Megan, Scott Boers, Miguel Ramirez from the Opposites Attract podcast. Also, a happy new year full of greatness, and Go Pack goes to our Lambo level patrons, Hank Davis from the TPE Network, Joe Christensen, and Brett Connor. If you guys are interested in joining in, all the details can be found at PackersFanPodcast.com/give back.
And as always, the Unofficial Packers Fan Podcast is not affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers. And as always, please tell a friend about the show, and we thank you in advance.
We also invite you to follow us on the old website known as Twitter. You can follow Wayne at Wayne Henderson. You can follow myself at GoCastScott. And you can follow the podcast itself at Packers Fan Pod, or my Gaming Outsider podcast at The GoCast. And here's our PFP community members, Dan Dyler, Megan, Andre in LA, and Joe Christensen, to ensure the Packers advance in the playoffs.
Go Pack, go!
Go Pack, go!